I consider myself blessed, not only because I have a great family and two adorable kids, but also because I happen to work in an area that I really love, really inspires me, and fills me with energy. And it's this exact area that I have been working throughout these years, centering on innovation and entrepreneurship, in which life has treated me really well so far. I have the privilege of experiencing this space for over 17 years on all three angles that someone can experience it. Basically, I have started ventures, I have invested in startups, and I have studied the sector as an academic. Having been bruised with my very first experience in a startup, it being both educational and brutal, I was then a little bit more lucky and successful with my next venture. That has allowed me to start modestly investing in this region and beyond over time. However, it was the researching, it was the understanding, and it was the teaching of entrepreneurship to intelligent students that has been a true eye-opener for me and helped me understand a lot of things about this sector. This is what has made me pretty confident and comfortable into sharing some patterns and some surprising realities of this sector with you today. What factors are needed to be present for an entrepreneurial ecosystem to succeed, to grow, to thrive? Plenty of factors are important and they need to be present. Obviously, culture has to be there, the right attitudes, this is very, very helpful, the right business environment, stable tax regime, of course, limited red tape, limited bureaucracy, limited corruption. Obviously, some political stability as well, rule of law, the absence of which would simply prohibit any healthy business activity altogether. However, over years, there has been a well-justified belief among all stakeholders in this industry that for an entrepreneurial ecosystem to thrive, there are two key pillars that really need to be present. And these two key pillars are talent and capital. Having this understanding acknowledged by pretty much all stakeholders, and these two being a prerequisite for most entrepreneurial ecosystem, there are different opinions that have emerged within academia and within the sector itself about which of the two is more important, or if you like, the absence of which is more detrimental to the growth potentials of an entrepreneurship sector. Well, let me share with you that throughout all these years that I have been working in that sector, having met with several hundreds of startups seeking to raise capital, having followed many of them and their progress thereafter, regardless of whether we have invested into them or not, and also having studied and researched quite a few companies, several dozen companies, I have been coming to the same conclusion again and again. And this conclusion, being very clear, is that talent beats capital hands down in terms of importance. Throughout these 17 years that I have been working primarily in this region, in Central and Eastern Europe, but also in the Latin American markets and the Southeast Asian markets, and mind you, these markets are very different from the US market or the Western European markets in the sense that capital tends to be more limited. The access of it tends to be rather limited. I have to say that I have never come across any pure, distilled, well-rounded talent with a solid identified business plan that was hindered in any way by the unavailability of capital. I have never seen any such case failing to raise money. Never, ever. Let me, however, spotlight talent itself, And let me define what I mean with well-rounded talent, a term that I have come across to use over these years in this region. Talent comes in various shapes and forms, and there are several attributes that need to be there. Obviously, technical skills have to be there, very important. Business skills, knowledge of the sector, let alone all soft skills that would be very helpful, from communication skills, emotional intelligence, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, character traits are very important. Without integrity and honesty, it's a no-brainer. No one's going to go forward. However, in addition to all the skills that most people consider, and they are very important, there is a minimal set of 2 core soft skills that have to be there, and they usually make all the difference. And these 2 skills are grit and coachability. Let me talk about grit. Grit is all about passion. It's about perseverance. It's about stamina. Grit is about commitment to the long haul, setting a goal and not letting go. Grit is about convincing yourself to start swimming into the open ocean until you reach land, for what it takes and for as long as it takes. Grit is a key ingredient for the success of many startup ventures. Most of them will be facing adverse and challenging conditions in the journeys they're going to be embarking on, and grit is one of the most important ingredients needed in order to succeed and overcome these challenges. Usually, grit is not something that can be easily observed in people, not at the very beginning when you meet them. It usually takes some time. But when observed, it's like having identified a gold mine. And something which may surprise a lot of people, grit is a skill that can be developed. It's not necessarily something that you need to be born with. Equally important, coachability. The ability to listen, the ability to be flexible, and the ability to accommodate advice. Being coachable, so important. The ability to understand weaknesses that you may have, and understand that the advice and the feedback you might be getting from people is important, and you are able to take action upon it. It's not about fooling oneself and understanding that this is great advice, and then keep on doing whatever has been going on before. Don't go about the same thing. It's the ability to let it sink in and make a difference. The ability to let it sink in and make it actionable. Let it change things. It has to do with how you approach things and actions. And believe me, it's rare. Unfortunately, it's rare. People don't change that easily. And in addition to that, even for people that they think that they are coachable, many times they are not. It's much more difficult than what you think, and it's much more difficult than what many people think about themselves. Coachability is a huge benefit for people starting ventures. Now, often I have come across talent that were in possession of a great business plan. However, they were destined to fail, compromised by the absence of these 2 core skills that I'm emphasizing their importance today. In the few times that I were lucky to come across talent in possession of these 2 skills, talent that was coachable, talent that possessed the grit, it's similar to having found diamonds in the rough. Occasionally they pop up, but it's not common. It's very rare to find this kind of talent, and it's very easy to observe that in the few cases that you have this kind of talent, the ventures that they start and they lead fall into a pattern of steady, irreversible growth that in most cases leads to success. And this is a pattern that capital will always be attracted to in the various lifetime stages of a firm. Just To make my point even stronger, let me say a few things about capital itself. In today's world, there is a lot of capital. The availability of capital is substantial. Liquidity is abundant. Venture capitalists, angel investors, accelerators, a substantial overflow of public money, all finding their way into early stage startups. Liquidity is abundant right now. And let me share with you a little secret. Let me surprise you with something. Right now, there is more money than investable startups. There are so many sources of funding that have been unable to deploy the capital they have planned to deploy in the last couple of years. Of course, the key word there is the word investable. Beyond a solid business plan that needs to be there, and often is not there, the kind of talent I was describing also has to be present. It has to be there. We're all going to be experiencing a world that has been rapidly changing, and given the degree of innovation, it's going to be changing even faster. People and businesses will have shorter periods to adapt than they used to have in the past. Software is going to be eliminating 50% of white-collar jobs in an unprecedented speed. Half of the jobs in this very room are going to be gone within a decade. Or if they're not going to be gone, they're going to be needing a lot less people than they need today in order to be performed. At the same time, tens of millions of new jobs are going to be created. But these jobs will be requiring rather specific technical and soft skills, which unfortunately our education system today is not developing as needed. It's going to be quite painful for many people to adjust to the new world. And people will also need to adjust into a reality where software will be running most of their living and most of their working. Entrepreneurship opportunities will abound in a world where thousands of sensors per square kilometer in urban areas are going to be talking to one another, and they're going to be making decisions directly without the presence of humans. That's going to be a reality within a decade, by the end of the next decade. This is going to be a very different world, and in this kind of world, entrepreneurship opportunities will abound. And these entrepreneurship opportunities will need this kind of talent. It will make all the difference beyond all the usual outstanding technical business and other skills in terms of which ventures will become successful and which ones are going to fail. Now, let me close off where I started. Soon I will have to start talking to my 5-year-old daughter and my 3-year-old son about the future world they're going to be living in. I will probably be unable to help them develop all the hard and soft skills that are going to be needed for them to succeed in this future world. However, I will make sure that I will instill in them the understanding of which skills are important, what skills are needed for them to succeed. And I will be there to support them and help them develop these skills. I will do my best to make sure that grit is part of them and that coachability is a characteristic of theirs. And I would like to encourage all of you in this room today to think about yourselves, about your loved ones, about the ones you feel responsible for. Think what skills will matter in a world which will be incredibly unrecognizable 10 to 15 years from now. Think, and thank you.